Welcome to the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Our beloved team heads to Philly this week to try and snap a 2-game skid, but the Eagles are looking to snap a 3-gamer of their own, so we'll see who comes out on top of this divisional matchup. Joel Corry of CBS Sports also stopped by to talk contract and number stuff with the guys, so you don't want to miss that. And we've got a very special announcement for you, too, so we'll be right back. It's the Hawks Die.
Here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey everybody, looking beautiful as always. It's your boy Sean Conti here. Glad to be back with you. I got my man Steve Thomas here. What's up, man?
Oh man, I'm very excited. We've got an action-packed episode for you guys out there today. So no jokes today. We just need to get right into it.
Yeah, that's right. You
I'm
feeling
excited.
nice and efficient tonight as well, Alex?
I'm not as efficient, but I am as excited because, as Steve said, this thing is chock-a-block full. It's jam-packed. It's been a good little day for me, so I'm very happy to get into this.
Yeah, it's been busy. All right, well, we will jump right in. So we've got the game preview coming at you. We definitely got to talk some Eagles stuff, and like we said, we had the aforementioned Joel Corry interview coming up, but we want to make a special announcement here at the top before we jump over to that. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been on this podcasting journey with you for about 18, 19 months now. And if you've been with us this whole time, we thank you wholeheartedly, straight from the bottom.
If you
and
haven't
we
been
also
with us this whole time, that's still okay.
That's okay, but you're kind of a dick, but it's okay. We also want to reward all that loyalty with the first official massive Hogside Network expansion. Okay, this is an exciting thing for us, guys, so stick with me. There's a lot of details we can't get into. We're not ready to get into right now, but the first phase of this whole expansion thing is bringing on some new writers, analysts, and budding reporters to expand out the content we offer. You've probably been hearing some new voices on the show the last few weeks, and these are our new guys. So with all of that said, we cordially introduce officially Adam Tarashke, first and foremost. Adam's a former Virginia Tech player. He's joining us as our point person on all things X's and O's. It's a huge need on the show, and we're extremely happy to have him. Jamal Forrest of My Mind on Sports joins the team as well, bringing his on-point analysis and player experience to the table. Very excited for that.
Yep.
Chris Larry is also on the team. Big shout out to Chris. He's going to be first on our writer staff, but also head up some special projects, TBD. Yeah. Marcus Borelli is also a staff writer for us now. We're extremely excited. You may remember him from our last episode. He's got much more exciting opportunities with the Hawks to come. And finally, Rick Rogers as well. He's going to join us as a staff writer. He's a longtime friend of the show, and you may remember him as one of our very first guests, Slick Rick. So we're all extremely excited to have his expertise on board. So anyways, I'm going to stop rambling. You've heard enough of me, but all this is to say we have lots of new staffers here at the Hawks Die. You may have actually seen Jamal's first article posted today on the website, so check that out on the blog Die. So many exciting things to come and so many new opportunities we can't wait to tell you about. Did I ramble too much, guys? You have anything to add?
I think I'm going to give a little bit more of a peek into what happened. We decided we wanted to add one more person. Our fans know we put out something on Twitter saying, hey, we're looking for a new host. And we got a lot of responses. I think it's safe to say we got more responses than we thought we would get even.
Yeah, we did.
That's right.
We narrowed it down to a couple guys, and we really liked more than one person. So we kind of sat down and said, well, what do we do? And the idea is, not to get into too much, we're going to go bigger rather than stay small. Go bigger, bring them all on, and see what happens. Because
basically, we're going to take over the NFL analysis world. We are going to dominate.
Look out.
We will take over the podcasting universe. That is our goal.
That's right. Hawkstyle is coming for you. So all of these new developments are going to be made much more clear to you soon over the next few weeks, months, and even further out. It's going to keep evolving and changing, but stick with us because there's some sweet shit coming, guys.
Evolution.
Well, yeah, and you're going to hear Adam join us on the next show and going forward.
Yes.
So Adam's going to take the Robbie Duncan role on the show. So we're excited to have
hugely
that start
excited.
immediately.
And we'll be getting the other guys involved as well, I'm sure. as things go along. It's a lot. We have a lot of plates that we're spinning, and we're going to try not to break any of them.
Yeah,
it's kind of a moving target a little bit. I think it's safe to say that we got so many responses. We had to turn people down. We didn't even bother interviewing some people. We thank everybody who applied, and if we didn't get you, we're sorry. But we're really excited about the guys we found.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Couldn't be more excited. And that all starts, I think, definitely with Adam joining us next week. So new things coming. Stick with us. With that in mind and that out of the way, let's move over to the more pressing topics at hand. You guys had an awesome conversation with Joel Corry of CBS Sports. He's a former sports agent.
We did.
You guys want to say anything up top about that, or should we just cut on over to it?
Well, I would say let's cut on right to it. This is Steve and I. We talked to him a few hours before we actually recorded all this together. I hope everyone enjoys. Joel Corry is a former sports agent. He worked for a variety of sports management firms, has represented some big names like Shaquille O'Neal and Ronnie Lott. Currently, he's a writer for NationalFootballPost.com and CBS Sports. Please welcome Joel Corry to the Hogsty. Thanks for joining us, Joel.
Thanks for having me.
And
Hey, Joel, this is Steve. We wanted to get right into the meat of why we had you here. Kirk Cousins, as you know, is a really big topic in Washington, D.C. right now. His profile has increased throughout the league. His performances has increased. He's obviously playing on the franchise tag right now. You, as a former agent, are very well versed in how these negotiations go. So what we'd like to ask you to start off with is, if you represented Kirk Cousins in his negotiations with the Redskins, how would you advise him? Oh, I feel that I'm in the driver's seat because last year it really wasn't much of a negotiation. From my understanding, they made an offer. The best offer they made was $16 million a year, like $25 million in guarantees. Never increased it after Brock Osweiler got $18 million a year with $37 million, fully guaranteed at signing. One of the things was Kirk had only had 8 very strong games last year and wanted to see him do it again. I would think, if I'm his agent, I think he's passing the test regardless of whether the Redskins make the playoffs. So I'm hoping they don't put a franchise tag on me again for almost $24 million. But if they do, I'm going to sign it immediately like I did this year. And I'm going to use that as a starting point for negotiations. And if not, then they're going to have to come to me and give me exactly what I want to make me forego free agency. And if they don't, they run the risk of starting over at quarterback, and I'm going to see what the market bears.
Now, from a numbers perspective, what would you tell Kirk Cousins he's worth in the market? I think I would assume you're talking 5 years, but average annual value, guarantees, what do you think is Kirk's starting point in that regard?
Actually, I'd only want 4 years just because if you have a quarterback that actually is good, you want to get a good level of security, but you don't want to commit too long because the more bite of the apples you get, the better off because the way quarterback salaries continue to escalate. So I'd really want to just give up 4 years on a deal. That being said, I would be looking at $25 million per year as my number. The guarantees, even though it's only a 4-year deal, are going to have to exceed Von Miller's overall total of $70 million. Mm-hmm. And the most for a quarterback fully guaranteed at signing is Andrew Luck at 47. League-wide, it's Ndamukong Suh at almost 60, but you're going to have to get in the 40s to be fully guaranteed at signing.
Mm.
Now, if you were the next step in this is the Redskins. The Redskins have got, about $15 million in cap, I guess, this year. They have enough space to do this. If you were the Redskins, what are you shooting for as a contract that you would hope to get at?
If I'm the Redskins, I would hope to get him at the price that my understanding is he was looking for last year, which was about $20 million per year and $60 million in guarantees. But the thing is, when you make a guy play out his contract and he incurs the risk of poor performance and injury and successfully navigates those things, the price is going to go up, particularly since the cap is expected to go up another 8% or more this year, which will mean it'll be at least in the $168 million neighborhood. So I think the ship has sailed for the Redskins to play harder ball or think they're dealing from some sort of position of strength or relative equality.
Mm-hmm.
if they want Kirk Cousins to be their quarterback. He's got the upper hand now, and the agent, provided Kirk Cousins is on board because you work for the client doesn't work for you.
Right.
They're going to try to get every last dollar out of this and not care about the rest of the team. That's the team's job to manage the salary cap. And if you guys can handle $18 million penalties for 2 straight years, then you can handle or massage a Kirk Cousins contract at more than what you would want to pay him if he's going to be on the team, if I'm the agent.
That actually brings up an interesting thing in my mind. People have been talking about the 25 number, and I think as fans we've just come to accept that's probably what this is going to cost us. But what's interesting to me is kind of how it gets broken down. Spotrac, I'm sorry, not Sports Track. They kind of had a model contract for Kirk Cousins a while ago where they really backloaded the thing with him only getting about $9 million in the first year. Now, as a fan,
that's not working. That is not working because you're never going to get Kirk Cousins to sign that Colin Kaepernick, Andy Dalton type contract. If he's heading to free agency, you're going to have to pay him like you do every other quarterback who's near the top of the market. You're going to have to get to that $40 million guarantee level or more for guaranteed at signing. It's not going to be some minimal guaranteed backloaded thing. You got Brock Osweiler who can't play, with $37 million fully guaranteed at signing.
So now
and you gave a cornerback 36.5 fully guaranteed at signing. You think Kirk Cousins is going to sign for less than 36.5 fully guaranteed at signing when Josh Norman?
Oh no, I don't think so. I was bringing that up as an example because here's what I'm seeing.
Sorry.
But the Redskins apparently have a lot of money coming up in the next off season. I think I've seen anywhere from 50 to 70 million is what their spending room is.
Yeah, I got it projected in the $60 million range right now without making any salary cap cuts. So
right. Now, isn't it a win-win for both of them to front load? I mean, that'd be my thought. If you give Kirk $30 million next year, why not? Wouldn't he take that? Or if you're an agent, would you try to dissuade that?
No, you want money sooner rather than later.
Right.
They have thrown a manage the cap that way. That's fine with the agent because we know they can handle a $20 million cap hit because that's what he's basically on now.
Right.
And they have the room to handle a $24 million cap hit. The question is, do they want to put it most of it in some sort of roster bonus where it eats up cap room and can't be prorated?
Sure.
Or do they want to give him a huge signing bonus and prorate it? There's a lot of things they could do, but teams typically don't deviate from what their standards are with contracts. They're creatures of habit. So I can't, even though what you're saying makes sense, they're probably not going to do that. But if you make some sort of contractual exception, it's usually with the quarterback.
Okay. So that would be unique.
Joel, I've been preaching to our audience for a while now that one of the things that's important in these contracts is the dead money that goes on each year, and at what point the dead money is less than the cap hit, meaning that the player can be cut. It looks to me like most of these top end quarterbacks get to about year 3 for that. Is that what?
Yes, that's right. That's right. The general rule of thumb is when you do the deal for a high end player, you're looking at the first 3 years compensation or the first 3 new years if it's an extension is really what is going to be money that you should get, considering these things aren't fully guaranteed like in baseball or basketball. So yeah, after the 3rd year, it should be more cap friendly for the Redskins to get out of it, provided they don't play that Dallas New Orleans restructuring game where they kick the can down the road.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there. And this is a tiny bit off topic, but between Eric Schaefer and Scott McGowan, they both have a good reputation for cap management. Do you think
actually the guy you're neglecting to mention, who probably has more of a say in this than you might think, is Bruce Allen. And Bruce has more cap experience than anybody there because he's done it from both perspectives. When he was with the Raiders, it was that rob Peter to pay Paul approach because Al Davis every year wanted to be competitive. This was back when Gruden and Mike Lombardi were there, when they went to the Super Bowl and before, like in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. Then he got Tampa Bay out of salary cap hell, and when he left them with they were flush of cap room. So he's done it from both perspectives. So I wouldn't underestimate Bruce Allen's role in this whole thing.
Well, and based on what you're saying there, it sounds like then that the Redskins have the team in place to not let this Kirk Cousins contract hamper hamstring the team, for years to come, which would make the fans happy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. As I said earlier, you guys were able to manage an $18 cap penalty in 2 straight years when there was minimal cap growth.
Right.
Now we're having the cap go up 8%, which is a double-digit cap increase. So if you could do what you did then when the cap was going up marginally, Kirk Cousins at high cap numbers by anyone's standards is going to be a piece of cake comparatively.
So it sounds like those concerns of a Flacco situation where you hamstring would probably be unfounded just because of that cap increase. Is that right?
Yeah, and also you're not going to structure it the way Flacco's was structured,
right?
Because he had like a $6.8 million cap hit in the first year. But he had a huge signing bonus, and they had an option bonus where they could exercise a later year in the contract, which was significant. Then the year after that, another option bonus to exercise another year. And option bonuses are like signing bonus from the standpoint they're prorated over the life of a contract up to a maximum of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the case with Flacco. They had to do what they did for him this offseason, even though he tore up his knee, because there would have been so much acceleration from the signing proration, bonus proration accelerating from not only the signing bonus, but both option bonuses.
Mm.
So he had them between a rock and a hard place.
Sure.
That won't be the case in year 2, 3 down the road with the Kirk Cousins deal.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been preaching, to our audience that we're truly, as long as we can avoid the Flacco-Romo deal, I think it's probably going to work out. But I'd like you to put your disinterested third-party hat on and give us your best guess as to what you think the ultimate number is going to be.
If the Redskins could get him to sign for Joe Flacco type deal, they should consider that a victory, because that would be like the $22 million per year range of like $65 million in overall guarantees and about $40 million, $45 fully guaranteed at signing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that happens because the agent's going to be looking at a couple of things. That the market's going to increase because patience is his friend. That's with a franchise tag. If it's the open market, that is what it is, and it'll be done in March. But there's no incentive for the agent to do a deal before that July 15th deadline is approaching, because Derek Carr will most likely get an extension heading into 2017, his contract year. He's an MVP candidate. That's going to be most likely a $25 million per year deal. Mm-hmm. And then there's a guy in Detroit, Matthew Stafford, also heading into his contract year, represented by Tom Condon, who had both Manning boys, and also Drew Brees as a client. If you let Matthew Stafford play out his contract, become a free agent in 2018, to keep him from doing that, the franchise tag number non-exclusively would be 26.4 based on the increase over his 2017 cap hit. He is going to rake the Lions over the coals this summer. You're going to have two guys who exceed Andrew Luck probably by the time you have to do a deal with Kirk if he's franchised by that July 15th deadline. So when you have more deals up in that area, it gets easier for the Redskins to do it and easier for the agent to justify it.
Joel, we want to thank you for your time. I have one last kind of question to kind of wrap this up. Do you think there's any chance the Redskins let Cousins get to the market without tagging him? I mean, or are they going to tag him just to keep that exclusive negotiating?
No, I think they tag him, and if need be, they don't like the numbers, they let him play for basically $24 million. My concern would be if he got to the open market, is the easiest transition for him to make system-wise would be going to Cleveland, who is going to have over $110 million in cap room. They screwed up this year, trading picks away and not drafting Carson Wentz. This year's draft class, quarterback-wise, you don't have a Jameis Winston, a Marcus Mariota, or even a Carson Wentz. So if that type of cap room and some intriguing receivers, Terrell Pryor, you got Corey Coleman, actually a better running game than the Redskins have, and the same offensive system, that's an easy transition if he's a UFA. And then the Bears would be appealing because that's home.
Right.
They're going to need a quarterback. Everyone's going to be in the hot seat if they survive John Fox and Ryan Pace. So they're going to have $60 million in cap room. And that's before cutting Cutler. Then that gets up to close to 75. They could pay him a ton of money to go home. I would be concerned about that, which is why you put a franchise tag on him.
Right.
I can't even begin to imagine the depths of despair of the Redskins franchise, the Redskins fans, if the same franchise that signed Robert Griffin signs Kirk Cousins. It would just be a nightmare.
That would also be the greatest troll job in the history of sports if Kirk went from ousting Griffin in one city to going to ousting him in another. I mean, that would be something of legend.
Hey, real quick, Joel,
sure.
But before we go, one last thing. This is a little bit off topic. There's been rumors about Deshaun Jackson that the Eagles have talked to him. Is there any truth to any of that you know of?
I would imagine that is just Drew Rosenhaus putting that out there.
Oh, okay.
Putting feelers out there more than anything else, because I think the Redskins may have let both older receivers in the contract year go, Garcon and Jackson, if they knew what they had in Dotson. But since he's basically doing the Kevin White thing in his rookie year, they may have to re-sign one. So that's basically, I call that Drew Rosenhaus spin.
Okay, so that's some classic gamesmanship by one of the all-time legends.
Agents do that. Yeah, agents do that stuff all the time.
Sure.
When you see these reports about teams having interest in a guy, that's normally the agent getting somebody to write.
I mean, I know there was some talk that the Eagles must be tampering or something, but that to me seems a little far-fetched.
That goes on. That goes on too. Anytime there's like a conversation, say you're a prominent agent and you have clients around the league. And
sure.
You're calling about one of your clients on another team. It may come up. You may casually mention, "Well, I'm going to have a receiver available who great in your offense." So it would come up like that. Maybe the team will say something like, "Yeah, he's a good one." It's like, "Yeah, he would fit. He would be a good fit here," but it won't. It won't get to anything more serious and
right.
all. And
fake names used a little bit. Meeshawn Schmaxon or something.
There'll be something like that, but there won't be more seriousness about any type of tampering until at the earliest the Senior Bowl,
all right,
and then at the Combine.
Gotcha. Joel, we want to be generous about not taking up too much of your time, and I want to really thank you for coming on. All our listeners, you can follow Joel at Corry Joel on Twitter. Not Joel Corry. There's apparently another guy who took that one from you.
I couldn't get it. My name's not a common name, either one, but there's some like bodybuilding DJ in London who has it.
Yeah. I made the mistake of looking at him first. I was like, this is the guy.
That's probably not the Joel Corry.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Joel, again, thank you for coming on, and the interesting part of the season for you, I'm sure, comes right when the season ends. So I'm sure you're going to be very busy coming soon.
My time is usually right after the season, up until like the first until April.
Okay.
Till the draft gets more attention. That's usually my busiest time.
Sure. Joel, thanks again for coming on, and hope you have a good night.
Sure, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome stuff. Joel is a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, we were very happy with how that interview went.
I think that was. Go ahead.
I think is a big picture point. To me, he sort of confirmed what our thoughts were, generally speaking. There's so much to start with, and we're not going to repeat all this, but suffice to say, he thinks the Redskins can re-sign him. Can re-sign Kirk. There's plenty of room to do it. He gave you some parameters about what the Redskins would think about what Kirk's perspective is going to be. He told you, look for guaranteed money in the 40s, in the 40 millions. Told you look for the dead money to be lower than the cap hit, meaning he can be cut by year 3, which is what I've been telling you guys for weeks. Right. The coolest thing I thought was he just very quickly squashed the Deshaun Jackson rumor that's been floating around about, the Eagles being interested in him. So I thought all of that was really good. I was very happy to have Joel on the show, and thanks very much, Joel, if you're listening back to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Topical stuff. We'll see how this situation develops, but I'm glad we had that interview so we could get the Hogs Die thoughts out there on it. So with that in mind, let's move on to the Eagles game this week, guys. Right. Are we ready? Are we ready for the Eagles?
Ugh. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with Philadelphia. You know that, so I'm ready.
I do. Well, I think we all do. So for the context for the folks at home, before we get into the numbers and the details, Philly's coming off 3 straight losses. We're coming off 2, and they were not good losses for us. Lots of points getting scored. So while we feel like we have the upper hand in this, particularly since the last matchup went pretty well for us earlier this year, you never know with this team. Defensively, we're trending downwards, I would say. So, I don't know, Steve, do you have a prepared packet of numbers and data for us?
Yeah. All right, do we want to start with offense first?
Yeah, let's start with
all means.
Okay.
Let's our offense versus the Eagles defense, yeah.
Well, first of all, let me piggyback on what Sean said, and it is true that we had 2 losses, they have 3, but I'm not sure I totally agree that we're both trending downward, okay? The Eagles team is a team that started off really hot at the beginning of the year. They were getting a ton of attention.
Right.
Brian Baldinger called Carson Wentz, Manning pre-snap, Rodgers post-snap, which is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Well, all of that has come crashing down to earth, and actually the Eagles are 2-7 in their last 9 games, which is that's not what we are at all. I mean, yeah, we stumbled, but we stumbled against good teams.
Well, Philly sucks.
This is So, they lost. They got beat down by Green Bay. We didn't. We beat Green Bay. So, but if you want to talk numbers, after the Cardinals game, the trend for the offense still kind of holds. We're 10th, and we're gaining a lot more yards on our scoring points. Right. I sound like a broken record. We say it every single week. We're 10th in points, but we're 2nd in total yards. 2nd in total yards per game, 2nd in passing yards, 11th in rushing yards, 5th in rushing yards per attempt. So the trend is held precisely. Kirk Cousins posting a ton of yards, 3,800 yards, 3,811 yards on the season, which is 3rd in the NFL. 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So from a numbers perspective, he's doing good. But it comes down to the same old thing. Red zone efficiency. We're 31st in the league.
Yeah.
We're terrible and horrible in the red. We're the 2nd worst team in the NFL in the red zone, despite the fact that we have a high-powered offense that has put 2nd. We're the 2nd in the NFL in total yards. And and this has nothing to do with the Eagles. This is a flaw with the way the Redskins. It's a flaw in the play calling. It's a flaw in the way the team is constructed. Help me out, guys, because I'm rambling.
Well, let's talk about that. So I think you were. I have in my notes, and I think you were just confirming this. The Eagles are like right around the middle of the pack against the run, and just ever so slightly a hair better against the pass. Like basically
they're
middle of the pack.
Average defense.
The Eagles are a definition of mediocrity.
Right.
So
something
I wrote in. Ouch. So I wrote in my game preview that this is one of those ones where. Pick your poison. They're kind of ranked the same place against both facets of the game, so I think the Redskins would be best suited to stay aggressive in both, not game plan too much for any one particular thing. They're not necessarily a defense that excels at something or sucks at something.
Right.
They're just kind of average all around. So this should be a generally, I would say, easy thing to game plan for, but we'll see. I would also just.
Yeah, we know the teams well, I mean, You're exactly right. The game planning shouldn't be that much of an issue. We've played them, Jay Gruden's faced them, this is number 6 for Jay Gruden?
Well, they've won the last 4 or something, right?
Yeah.
We've just been kind of sweeping.
Jay Gruden has done very well against the Eagles. That's partly because, Chip Kelly destroyed the Eagles in Gruden's 2nd year. So that helped.
That's a fair statement to make.
Yeah,
I think our Philly fans would agree with that.
Yeah, I'll talk to my old college roommate later tomorrow, and he'll just mention it. I won't bring it up. they still just are like fucking Chip Kelly,
Right. Yeah.
Well, Chipper's he's destroyed the 49ers now too.
Well, I think
they're one of the worst teams in football. He hadn't helped them.
Oh no.
Dallas should hire him.
Yeah. Please,
There
Dallas.
you go.
Yeah, I would just point out as well, I mean, just to this point, because I think it's all related, they're also not a team that generally creates a lot of disruption for quarterbacks. I think
No.
their leading rusher, Brandon Graham, I believe, is the leading sack leader, and he's only gotten one over the last 6 games or something like that is the statistic for him. So,
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
So
their sack leader is Graham. He's only got 5 sacks on the season. And as a team, they do have 26 sacks. Which is middle of the pack, 14th in the NFL. Yeah, I think you were exactly right. You said it exactly right, Sean. It's a pick your poison kind of thing, but not necessarily in a bad way.
Right.
Poison's
Right.
probably not the right term, because let's just go over some Philly defense.
Here's how I would put it: know
Go
what
ahead.
you're good at and stick to your game plan, and it
Exactly.
should work. And I know Steve's going to hate that because that probably means Jay Gruden is going to call a lot of passing plays early. And
Well, he
try and
said-
tear it out. But
He said multiple times this week that he needs to have Rob Kelly run more.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a broken record. It's like
he
listening to the same
said
thing
that for
over
years.
and over and over.
But he's
You
a
just can't
pass
do-
first West Coast offense guy. I mean, that's what
Well,
he is.
I think we've learned, though, okay, over the past I'll look the number up in a minute because I didn't write it down, but our run-pass ratio in the past 2 games, which, by the way, we lost both, is something like 90 and 30. Roughly.
Oh, yeah. No, we've been...
we're way out of whack.
I agree with that. I think you are best served, and this is not any particular coach. Every coach is best served with their quarterback throwing that 30 to 39 passes a game ratio as their high end, and then you run the ball down their throats. I think that's pretty universal.
We have a running back. We have a running back that can do it.
Yeah, I
and
think
like
so.
you said, I mean, the Eagles are no great shakes in any one area. They're 16th in rushing yards on defense, 13 in rushing yards per attempt. The teams are averaging 4.1 yards per attempt against them. So they're not great against the rush, and passing is the same thing. They're 10th in points, which is slightly above average. Okay, 11th in total yards. 13th in passing yards, 20th in passing yards per attempt.
Right.
And so, if we stick to who we are, and definitely increase the number of runs, we really and truly, the rivalry aside and the hatred aside, we really ought to be okay against this Eagles defense. We really ought to be able to move the ball and score against the Eagles defense.
Well, we'll see what good old Mr. Schwartz over there in Philly has in store for us. Folks might not remember, but Jim Schwartz is the D coordinator over there in Philly, and he has, I think, gotten generally favorable reviews, but I believe what people are saying is the same thing they're saying about this defense, which is that there are some talent deficiencies, and that's the problem.
Right. Well,
I think
they're kind of in that rebuild phase that we're in, too, and you
Right.
know.
And
Yeah,
they're
so-
post-chip, as we mentioned, which is sort of like coming out of the apocalypse.
Right.
Yeah, well, let's make no mistake. I mean, their defense is more successful than our defense.
Right.
In every phase. They're better against the run. We'll talk about this when we get to defense, but this is
go ahead.
not the same thing as our defense.
Now, Steve, one last point about the whole run pass thing that we were talking about. We did run it a lot against them last time.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we
we did, and I hope we do again, because the team, if there's any, I should have printed this. A stat went around. Somebody put out on Twitter, and it came because we get all sorts of nonsense on Twitter because we follow a lot of people and we have a lot of people following us, and it showed that when the Redskins run pass balance is roughly even within a margin, we are much more successful. We win a lot more games. When it's greatly out of whack, we've never won a game where the run pass is hugely out of whack like it's been the past 2 weeks.
Right.
Under Jay. It just doesn't happen,
No, and I think part of it is, and I hate to say it because I love Jay Gruden. When he starts feeling like he's under pressure to score, that's what happens. And I think that's been the case the last 2 games. Is we got behind early.
It's like he panics.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just him. Ideally, Callahan and McVay should be there saying, no, we got to stick to keeping balance. But no one's doing that, which is frustrating.
Right.
Well, I think all 3 of those. I think especially McVay and Gruden just think they're kind of. I think they overthink things.
I think
if you want to put it in a positive way, they try to overthink and outsmart things. Where if you're on the 1 yard line,
Yeah.
Don't run. Don't try to trick people with a run pass option play. Give it to Rob Kelly. Have him pound it right down the A gap on the strong side.
Right.
How about that? Don't throw a fade pattern to Deshaun Jackson with Patrick Peter, little tiny Deshaun Jackson with the best corner in the NFL covering him.
How about
That's just
don't
dumb.
throw a fade pattern ever? Because
Yeah, there you
I mean,
go.
there have been so many,
Never.
experts who have, or air quote experts, who have said that the fade pattern is one of the worst plays you can call in the red zone at this point because it's, you have to throw the ball perfect. The route has to be perfect. You have to catch the cornerback out of position. There's just too many factors that go into getting the fade pattern right.
Well, it sounds like
pattern. Go ahead. Sorry, Sean.
Well, no, it just sounds like what we're saying here, and this is good context again for the people at home. It sounds like what we're saying here is this matchup, our coaching staff doesn't like to run. They like to pass.
Right.
This isn't a team that's very good against the pass. On paper, it's a matchup, and if we lose offensively, it's probably because we beat ourselves. Is that what you would say? We got too cute?
Yeah, I'd like to be clear, though. This is not a bad defense.
No,
it's just not nearly at the level that
but our
of the
passing
defense
offense should be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not nearly at the level of the defenses we faced recently. I mean, we faced some doozies.
I mean, we beat
Cardinals,
a better team in Minnesota, in my opinion, defensively.
And Green Bay. Green Bay was better defensively. And, and the Cardinals are a much better defense, obviously.
Right.
So Kirk, just shake off all those bruises from last week, bro. Don't be skittish. Get out there and execute at a high level.
Go eat your fast food.
Before we move
on.
Yeah. Just to put a little context, if you look at the rushing yards that the Eagles have given up, there are they've given up more than 100 yards rushing in 4 games.
Okay. One
was the Cleveland Browns, and we all know how good Cleveland is rushing the ball. Right. The Washington Redskins ran for 230 yards against them. The Dallas Cowboys put up 187 yards. Seattle Seahawks put up 152 yards. The Bengals, the Packers
yards against them, and that was before Rob Kelly.
Yes,
there you go.
The Bengals, the Packers, the Falcons, the Giants, the Vikings, the Lions, Steelers, and Bears were all under 100 yards rushing against the Eagles.
Right.
But a lot of those teams aren't good rushing teams.
No.
So I think suffice to say, from my perspective, we do what we do, and we ought to be able to move the ball and score against them. Even though it's in Philly, even though it's a rivalry game, this team doesn't scare me nearly as much as the monstrous teams we faced recently, and we're going to face again in the coming weeks.
Yeah. That's right, and this was some time ago, but we did beat them once this year already by a touchdown, and the game was not even that close. So
no, we kind of let up in the end, and they scored a few times.
Yeah, so let's keep that in mind, too. We should be able to handle this one. With that in mind, then, that's a perfect segue if we want to go ahead and talk about Philly offense. Are we ready to make that move?
I think so.
We are.
Well, let's talk about a nice, refreshing glass of Carson Wentz Light. Delicious. He's been struggling big time over the last few weeks. People, like Steve said, I think you summed it up perfectly. People were singing his praises when they were 3-1 in week 4.
Right.
But things have come back to reality since then. So I don't know.
I can summarize this all, and I can summarize this in a perfect way.
Go for it.
Back in the beginning of the season, when everybody thought he was wonderful, he had first 4 weeks of the season, quarterback ratings 101, 86.6, 125.9. That was against the Steelers, and then 102.8 against the Lions. Since that time, he's only cracked 90 once. In the next, 8 games, he put up a 91.4 against Dallas. But he's been largely terrible in every other game. Last week against Cincy, 58.2. Green Bay, 57.
Right,
3 interceptions, 1 touchdown.
6
against Green Bay the week
the
before.
last 4 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. He's been bad. If there's a rookie wall, he's kind of hit it. But he hit it a long time. But the wall came early.
Well,
he didn't run very far before he hit a wall. He's on the season total.
If we want to talk about when he might have hit the wall, I think it might have been versus the Redskins in October.
That's a good point.
That was his first bad game.
I think for all the shit I love to pile on Joe Barry Barry figured out how to, game plan for Wentz in that you kind of like take away those short, easy passes and he struggles. And that's what we did. And it worked. And I think everyone's kind of done that to him since.
That's damning with praise if I've ever heard it. Joe Barry can beat a rookie quarterback on a post-Chip Kelly Philly Eagles team. It's like a horrible compliment.
Well, if I recall, when we did the prep for the first Eagles game, I went back and watched every single Wentz snap for the entire year. And what we saw at the time was a ton of checkdowns, a ton of flat passes, a ton of passes to the flats, to the running backs. It was a never-ending stream of that. And, yeah, I think Joe Barry kind of took that away. Mm-hmm. And as long as we're on defense, I think we have to talk about Joe Barry here, right? Because it's a never-ending debate in Redskins land, right now.
It's always going to be a debate over, offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, unless they do a good job. I mean, that's fair. I mean,
right. That's how it works.
Yeah. We had
he has got to stop
going back
scoring.
to Jim Zorn, man. It's not it's not just Joe Barry. If your unit doesn't perform, we're going to come down on the coach.
Yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense. This is a team that's been letting up points like it's our job. 62 points over the last 2 weeks. It's not a good look. You're not going to win a game doing that. And while I understand we have some holes on this defense, we've got to do better because the offense is playing at a level that can win games. I was just going to say I have actually Joe Barry versus Frank Reich and Doug Peterson is one of my key matchups this week. This is a big one for Joe Barry. Hold people to less than 20, please. If there's a team that can do it, it's probably this one.
I mean, believe me, I'm all for let's blame the leader, when the troops do bad. I'm all for that. But I just continue to ask every week, ask the same question. What would a better defensive coordinator scheme-wise do differently that would get better results? Because, guys, Barry has mixed up the schemes real well, pretty well recently. He started to spy. He spied Larry Fitzgerald a little bit, like Josh Norman moved around on him. They did the same with David Johnson, a little bit, and he's done that kind of thing before. Have you noticed some blitz? Some blitz stunts recently?
Yeah, we've done some gimmicky, tricky corner blitzes, even using Norman on blitzes now, which I like, and that's the right thing to do. But
that's all great and dandy. That's all great and dandy. But here's what and your question's fair, Steve, but here's what I throw back at you. You go look at the Philadelphia Eagles defensive depth chart. You tell me which team has more star power on it, the Washington Redskins or the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles have some key pieces, but I wouldn't say they necessarily have a team that's full of more star talent than we do. And yet, as you said, almost every facet of the game, they're better than us in. To me, that's coming down to the coach. It's got to be the scheme. Now, I don't know, really. That's why we hired Adam, because I'm a dipshit. But, hopefully he can corroborate my statement here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to I just think the personnel deficiency in the front seven is so great.
It's bad. You're right.
That's the fundamental problem. I mean, Lord knows we love Will Compton. He's a great story. But the guy is just athletically, he's very limited.
Yeah.
Mason Foster, a good guy. He's just a guy.
We have,
Ziggy Hood, just a guy.
3 or 4 above average guys on the front seven, and then the rest of the guys are average to below average after that. And I was having this argument earlier today. I mean, the real weakness is the defensive line, and because outside of Chris Baker, who do you got?
Right. No, it's perfect. Every time the opposing offense lines up for a running play, I feel like Brad Pitt at the end of 7 screaming, "What's in the box?" Because nothing's in the box. Right. They're going to blast through it every time.
Right.
Well, also, I mean, it has to be said also that the talent deficiency, extends to the safeties too.
Oh, yeah.
We're starting a bunch of Dreckett. We're starting a bunch of Dreckett safety. We really are. And so it's not just the defensive line. I mean, if anything, you blame Scott McLuhan. If you're going to blame somebody, blame Scott McLuhan. I know he's the hero of DC and everything, but his signings on the defensive, the defense hasn't worked out.
Let's build through the draft kind of left the defense out to dry. That's how.
He signed Stephen Paya. Mm-hmm. Remember, that was a failure. Signed David Bruton. That was a failure. That didn't work either. He's gone. Right. We fell into Josh Norman. Okay, good. You brought in Ziggy Hood, who's been, he's doing the best he can. but he's not great. I mean, a lot of the defensive signings he's brought in as stopgap measures have not worked.
I mean,
aside from Josh Norman.
I mean, the way we're building this defense, or we built the defense for this year, you can't build an elite defense around just a great cornerback.
Right, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
You need somebody in that box, like you said, Sean. Somebody in that front seven has to be the London Fletcher. If you have one great linebacker, one great defensive tackle, it changes the whole dynamic of that front seven.
Yeah, I mean, you need someone. Yeah, someone solid at every tier of the defense. And if you don't have that, you're going to struggle big time.
First, second, third level. Exactly.
But maybe you ought to focus back on the Eagles-Redskins game just a little bit generally. So just to summarize Wentz, and we'll move on. He's at 63.1% completion percentage on the year, 80.1 quarterback rating, which is 28th in the NFL, 12 TDs, 11 interceptions.
Yeah, fuck Wentz. Let's talk about these running backs. Wentz makes me want to
their leading rushers, is Matthews, 102 attempts, 427 yards, 4.2 yards per attempt, which is good, not great. Of course, as we're fond of saying in the show, the Redskins defense makes good running backs look great.
Sure.
Fantastic.
So there's no telling what's going to happen.
I mean, Matthews doesn't scare me as much as Sproles, who I think has been used a little bit more lately.
And Matthews is also coming off an ankle
passing
problem.
Threat still, so even at his age,
Yeah, he's got about as much receiving yards as Matthews does rushing on the ground, I believe.
Sproles is a nightmare.
Yeah.
He's got like 400 or 500 yards through the air this year, in addition to the between 3 and 4 he's got on the ground. So I think that's a good call out, Alex. That's probably the one to be more concerned about.
Yeah.
All three Sproles has got 387 yards receiving and 339 yards rushing. So there you go.
Right.
There you go. All three of their running backs are kind of similar in rushing stats. This is a team that likes to use different weapons pretty frequently throughout a game. So we shouldn't overly game plan for any one person. I hope Barry doesn't, because all three of these guys probably see significant playing time, especially with Ryan Matthews back after being out, I believe, just last week, I think it was. But he's back, and people are excited to see him resume number one duties. So we got to contain him. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on Sproles.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think with the struggle of Carson Wentz, and the struggle of particularly with our run defense, you got to think that the Eagles are going to be smart and try to use all three of those guys, and it's going to be a run-heavy game, I would think, because they can't trust Wentz to, pass, a significant amount and still win the game. So I think we're going to see a run-heavy until the Redskins prove they can stop anybody who's not terrible in the run. We're going to see that, and we're going to see it from Philly, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, do we want to call out anything else? Do we want to do some game predictions here?
Let's do injuries real fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we have a list. First of all, the Eagles are easy. The Eagles have a real short list. Dorial Green-Beckham has an abdomen problem. He did not practice Wednesday. The aforementioned Ryan Matthews has a knee problem. It was a knee, not an ankle. But he was at full practice today. Jordan Matthews, the wide receiver, has an ankle problem, limited practice. And then their right tackle, who's the name that Robbie Duncan couldn't pronounce, who I'm going to try to pronounce and fail, Halapulivati. He's got a knee problem.
I think you did a good
full
job
practice.
on that.
I think that was close. But here's the bigger problem is the Redskins list. I'll just run through it real fast because we're going to talk about it all day otherwise. Baker, Blackman, Breeland, Carrier, Compton, Crowder, Jean-Francois, Lanier, Laval, Long, Inseki, Reed, Scherf, Smith, and Whitner were all on the injury list this week. Though those who did not practice Wednesday, we're recording Wednesday. Baker, Jean-Francois, Spencer Long, who's in the concussion protocol, Inseki, and Whitner all did not practice Wednesday. So we have Gruden Jay said at the presser yesterday that the team's beat up on the offensive and defensive line. We sure are. The big issues are Spencer Long and his concussion, Jordan Reed and his shoulder. Those are probably the two biggest things to watch out for. But we'll see. We'll know more later in the week.
Well, real quick on Long. I mean, it sucks that he's got a concussion. And, I always kind of err on the side of caution and think the guy's probably just going to miss a week. I think the NFL's taking concussions much more seriously, and they should. But Sullivan filled in very well. or Sully, as I'm calling him. Sorry, Sully filled in pretty well.
Because we cool like that.
Yeah. So, at least I think we'll be okay at center, and Lichtensteiger is coming back, I guess.
Lichtensteiger.
Well, hold on, wait. No. Let's clarify. Corry Lichtensteiger was designated this week to return from IR, and what that means is he's got 21 days.
Okay.
For the Redskins to decide whether or not they're going to place him back on the active roster or IR him for the season. Mm-hmm. So he's practicing, but he's not back. Who is back? We would be neglectful to not mention that Trent Williams is back. He's off of his drug suspension.
Right.
And we do expect that Trent will be the left tackle.
Right.
Those of you out there who are dreaming of Nsekhe as left tackle and Trent as guard, first of all, I think you're crazy and you're insane. We'll have to ask Adam about this next week.
Mm-hmm.
But the Redskins, have no plans to move their all-pro left tackle inside.
Right.
So expect Trent Williams to resume left tackle duties, and then some combination of Sean Laval, who's got a serious groin injury.
Yeah, what happened to him?
Quanja,
Did he get tackled by a turnstile?
He fell off the chair that
Love
was
you, Sean.
rolling backwards, maybe.
Gotcha.
Ari
That's your fellow
Quanjo.
Sean.
Yeah, my bad. We got to stick together. He spells it the wrong
Ari
way.
Quanjo.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Ari Quanjo took the first string reps on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens because Laval didn't practice. So you may see Williams, Quanjo, Sullivan, Scherf, Moses.
Am I crazy Sunday for still hoping that Quanjo works out and can show he's a starter?
No, you're not crazy for hoping it, but who knows? That concerns me, Steve. That's a lot of young blood on the line. There's a lot of developing young players.
Yeah, Sullivan 30.
Isn't that young.
Well,
yeah.
It's
I
really
know what
just
you mean, though.
inexperience.
New guy. You don't want change.
Not on the offensive line, but it is what it is.
Yeah, not in a game coming off 2 losses that is more or less a must-win. I mean,
not more or less,
literally.
Yeah.
No, I think it's literally because
is it official?
Recall, well, we're 7th now, not 6th.
Yeah.
Because Tampa Bay took us over, and so if we lose to a division game to the Eagles,
that's too much new blood.
Especially if Tampa wins, this coming Sunday.
Boys, we're in Code Red time. It's Code Red.
All right,
it's Red time.
Well, with Code Red in mind, do we want to give our Code Red predictions here for this game?
I think so.
I'm ready to rock.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go first. I keep calling wins, and I keep feeling stupid, but I'm going to go to the loony bin one more time tonight. I think the Redskins are going to win this game. I think the work we're doing on offense will offset the bad work we're doing on defense, and I think Philly, as we kind of alluded to earlier, most likely is going to beat themselves. So I think the Redskins can pull this one off.
Okay.
I'll give a score. I'm sorry. I'll give a score, too. Let's say, what do we were 27 last time? 28 Redskins, 28-24 Redskins.
28-24? Okay.
I'll go next. I think we're going to win this game, too. I've predicted the 2 losses in a row, so far, but I think this game we can pull it out. Cincinnati, Green Bay, and Seattle all ran the score up on the Eagles. 32 points, 27 points, 26 points. We're not, we stink in the red zone, so we're not going to score 4 touchdowns, I don't think. So I think we're going to have a couple touchdowns and a bunch of field goals. So I'm going to predict 27 for the Redskins, and let's say our defense stinks, so 27-20. I'm going to predict 27-20. I'm the exact same score as the last game, 27-20.
All right.
It's fair.
I think you guys are probably right around where it should be. I'm going to be generous and say the Skins get 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, so 30 points for the Skins and 17 for the Eagles. I think that we hopefully have Wentz's number like we did last time we played, and we kind of shut him down.
Nice.
I don't think it's that tall of an order, quite honestly.
No,
as bad as Carson Wentz is playing.
Well, we're all on a very positive agreement for this week, so that's a good deal. One thing we didn't mention was I was just trying to look up the stats, but I don't see it. So, Steve, if you have it, feel free to call it out. But I believe Philly's been really killing it on special teams this year.
Yes, they have.
Something to think about.
I mean, that Andy Reid coaching tree, man. Andy Reid was a good special teams coach when he was in Philly. And
shebang.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sean, because I meant to mention and I forgot. This team is first in the NFL in kickoff returns.
Oh, no, I got him going again. Shit. I got the track priest. We're off the rails.
Yeah, well, and they're first in kick return defense. They are fourth in punt returns. The only thing they kind of stink at is punt return defense, 23rd.
Well, that's good for us because that's where we're probably our best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
And Hopkins is going to kick the ball out of the end zone for kickoff, so I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, you got to go for those, kick it out of the end zone, or if it's bad weather somehow, squib kick it.
Yeah, I didn't go too far off the rails there. No, Sean, that wasn't too far off the rails.
No, not bad at all. I was just giving you a hard time for all the business shit you've been giving me recently, calling me out on my Hogstein network and whatnot.
Well, up until now, we didn't have a Hogstein, but now we're on the verge of having a legitimate network now.
We still don't have one. We're just planning.
No, it's in our heads. It's in our heads right now.
It's in our heads, though.
Of grandeur.
It counts for something.
That'll be the name of one of the shows.
Right. Thanks for being with us, ladies and gentlemen, putting up with all our ridiculous banter, but I hope you learned something. Keep your fingers crossed and positive moods for this matchup against Philly. Hope you enjoyed the interview, and like we said at the top, keep tuned for all the sweet stuff coming very soon. So we'll see you guys very soon. Next time, take care.
Peace.